The joy of nostalgia often comes from looking back on a game you had nothing but fond memories of and remembering all those good times you had while playing that game or even experiencing that experience. But why look back on the game when you can probably still play it today? Unfortunately, some of those games may not hold up today as well as they did back then. Castle Crashers is a game that holds up great almost 2 full decades later. It's a game that I often find myself revisiting and enjoying just as much as I did the first time. To me, this was one of my first games that I ever played, and it introduced me to that indie genre that I've become very familiar with and I'm such a big fan of today. With the new DLC on the horizon, I wanted to revisit this childhood classic and go through the history of the game. In 2002, Tom Fulp, the founder of Newgrounds, teamed up with Dan Paladin, a Flash animator with a very unique style. The first project they made and released came out on the 7th of August 2002 before Behemoth was an official company. That game was Alien Hominid, a run-and-gun style game that was originally released as just a Flash game on Newgrounds. There isn't an exact number for the amount of players who played this on Newgrounds at the time, but Behemoth has confirmed that since 2002, over 21 million people have played the original game. A simple Flash game had the potential to be better than any AAA title that was being put out at the time. 1 year later, Tom and Dan recruited,
John Baez and Brandon LaCava
to create the company that we now know as the Behemoth. Now that they finally had a crew, they aimed to increase the player base by creating a console port. Alien Hominid was released for PlayStation 2 and GameCube in 2004, with an Xbox release coming out around that period as well. With popularity only increasing for the group, they started working on a project that would change the world. The beta footage of the game was presented at Comic-Con in 2006, giving players a look into the unique art style that the Behemoth had. If you play the game, you know that this early footage almost looks like a completely different game, and thankfully they did choose a different direction to go in. Oddly enough, when you look at some of the concept art of the game, you can kind of make out what they were going for. After a couple years of development, Castle Crashers was officially released on the 27th of August in 2008 on the Xbox 360. A few years later, in 2010, it was released on the PlayStation 3, and then in 2012 it made its way onto Windows and Steam. 2015, it ended up on the Xbox One, and in 2019, it landed on the PS4 and Nintendo Switch. Within the first few years of it being on the Xbox platform, it sold over 2 million copies, which is definitely quite a few. When the game was released, it presented an excellent single-player and multiplayer experience, and at the time of its release, multiplayer games of this style were kind of unheard of. On top of that, the art style was unlike anything that was out there. It was unique, it was funny, and it was very different. As for the actual gameplay, the premise of the game is quite simple. You and up to 3 other players play as characters that start at level 1. You're kinda thrown right in with the knight falling down the stairs to indicate the start of the war. You then witness the main antagonist taking this crystal, and then the king tells you to go get it back pretty much immediately. You make your way through countless levels and fight bosses across the world, collecting new weapons, leveling your character, spending points from your levels on a skill tree to get stronger, and fighting more bosses and enemies. One of the unique aspects you'll notice as you play as well is at a certain character level you will start to unlock new combos, which just adds a whole new level of playability instead of just spamming the same 2 buttons for the whole game. There are also these little orb pet things that have their own unique buffs that they can give you. Some of them will give skill buffs like strength, defense, agility, and some of them will find secret weapons that only can be unlocked through that specific pet, or even they can bring you food to help you heal. Some of them will attack enemies as well. Every character has a unique starting weapon, but they also have a set of magic that is either unique or arrows. The game perfectly blends the stages to feel like one long level that is just a continuous adventure. After completing the game with the character you chose, there is a whole roster of other characters with unique weapons and magic to unlock. And in some instances, the magic from some of the characters you unlocked would be arrows. Even after unlocking a character from the character you just beat the game with, all of the main knights have 2 new characters you can unlock after beating the game with them, and then beating the game with that character you unlocked from that main knight unlocked you a 3rd character that you can play. So that's a total of 2 new characters you can unlock from the main 4 knights in the game. The game's story is quite simple aside from the quest to get the crystal. There are 4 princesses that you can give big smoochies to after defeating major bosses. You fight your way through the Barbarian War, defeating the Barbarian boss and earning your first smoochie. After that, you enter the forest where there are thieves with funny faces and hairy troll dudes. You have a chase scene in the mill with a big hairy troll dude before swimming through tides to face a catfish boss thing. Once you defeat the cat boss, you begin your journey to retrieve the relics to progress further. 2 of the major bosses hold relics that keep you from sailing across the ocean. One is given for free at the blacksmith at the beginning of the game. You have to crash a wedding and make your way up a volcano, defeating Dragon and Sock to get the wheel relic. After that, you can face the industrialist in one of the best sequences in the game in order to get the telescope, and you can use that telescope to witness a live kidnapping. After you obtain the 3 relics, you can board the boat, and after boarding the boat, you fight ninjas from an opposing ship before crashing onto land. Once you make it to the second half of the game, you kind of notice a drastic shift in the environment. The enemies seem more difficult and intelligent, except for those alien dudes, and the levels become more lengthy. You make your way through more stages in a desert and play volleyball against these guys. Afterwards, you obtain the map in order to see a little bit further, and then you face this corn boss, and then you literally fight Medusa, and then you go to the most painful battle sequence, which is known as the moon. After the moon levels, you make your way through the ice biome, and then into the ice castle, where you will face the Ice King, who gives you your next smoochie after defeating him and listening to his laughter for 5 to 10 minutes, and then you make your way into the final sequence of the game. In the final sequence of the game, it puts you up against enemies who are completely immune to magic before bringing you to the final corridor. There you have to face 3 bosses prior to facing the evil wizard. First you face the painter, who sends evil paintings and no snails after you, and then you face the Cyclops and the groom whose wedding you crash earlier in the game. Finally, you face the necromancer, who is single-handedly the most badass dude in the game. Like, seriously, this evil wizard guy does not even come close to being as cool as he is. After all of those battles, you are finally able to face the final boss. You fight through each stage, a chest gets dropped on him, making you think that you probably won, and then the score gets more intense and the fight actually becomes somewhat challenging. After you finish the final battle and defeat them, you're able to obtain the crystal that you were fighting for. The very end of the game places you where everything began and provides you with one last surprise. Earlier in the video, I mentioned the release date for each console, but what about post-release? Did they have any content that came after the game was released? The answer is yes. Less than a year after the game was released, Behemoth dropped a DLC called the King Pack. The pack was available for $4.99 at the time and included 2 new characters, an animal orb, and 3 new weapons. This DLC included the lollipop weapon before it was relocated to a different DLC that would come in the future. A couple months later, they would release the Necromancer pack, which included 2 new characters, 1 animal orb, and 2 new weapons. One of the characters in the pack is the Necromancer, who you probably remember fighting towards the end of the game. The Necromantic pack was available as an Xbox 360 exclusive, and it cost $1.99. It took them a few years for the next DLC, but this DLC was the Pink Knight pack. This pack introduced the beloved Pink Knight, as well as 6 weapons for the price of 99 cents. 1 year later, they released the Blacksmith pack, bringing the Purple Knight along with 6 new weapons for the price of also 99 cents. The last DLC they released featured Hattie Haddington from their game Battleblock Theater, bringing a new animal orb and weapon alongside him. Prices varied from platform to platform, but all of the DLCs were available for under $5. Soon enough, the Painter Boss Paradise DLC will be available, bringing a new character and the entire Steam Workshop with it. At the time of this video, there is not a price for it, but I'm sure it will be very affordable knowing Behemoth. So what makes the game so special? Well, there's no right or wrong way to play. There's no meta that you have to follow to get the best results. You can max out one skill and do nothing to the others, or you can distribute your skill points how you want. You can play with whatever weapon and pet combo you feel like using. None of the bosses are particularly challenging, but all of them are unique and fun to play against. If you were playing with others, the chaos of trying to pick where to go next or who was playing what character is truly unmatched. Almost every enemy in the game that you end up fighting, you have the opportunity to unlock or play as. Castle Crashers isn't just a game, it's a memory. In an age where $60 to $70 games dominate the market, simple games like this with soul are truly irreplaceable. If you couldn't tell, I hold the game quite close, as it was one of the first games I ever played. One of my personal favorite memories of this game was playing the arcade-style machines at PAX 2018 when I was younger. I truly believe that Behemoth is one of the greatest game companies to exist, and I look forward to all of their future games that they're going to put out. If you haven't played this game, or any game by Behemoth for that matter, I can't put into words how amazing of an experience it truly is. With all that said, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, yeah. After you beat the game, you unlock Insane Mode difficulty, which, if you want to maintain your sanity and well-being, it's best not to attempt it, as it is insanely difficult and I am still yet to beat it with one character. So, yeah. But what about you? Did you have any memories of Castle Crashers or any Behemoth games for that matter? I would love to hear about it in the comments. If you did enjoy this video, then please do consider liking and subscribing, as it means the world to me. Thank you so much for watching.